When we look at modern firearms today, we kind of tend to forget how far in advance we've come since the early days of firearms. In particular, how to carry a weapon, or at least how to carry one's weapon. Because if you think about it, hundreds of years ago, if not more, when the musket was introduced, or at least the idea of a system where one can put gunpowder into a smaller barrel with a projectile inside of it and have a mechanism to fire said gunpowder, or at least in this case black powder, to be able to fire it at the enemies, which would be further and much more accurate than a bow and arrow. We kind of tend to forget that back then they had to carry their firearms without something to actually make it easier to carry one. Innovation is necessity, or at least comes from necessity. In this case, what we're talking about today is, of course, slings. What we tend to forget is that slings are relatively a new invention, because as the years have gone on in weapon development, the necessity to be able to carry one's weapon, or at least alleviate the burden of carrying one weapon so your hands are a little bit more free to conduct tasks, or even be able to move your weapon to the side so you may get to your sidearm, once again, is a relatively new concept. Relatively, mind you, I'm speaking in terms, of course, of weapons development. In recent years, we have developed much more and much sophisticated sling systems. From the traditional 2-point sling to now, of course, the 3-point sling system, and even much so a single-point sling system. Slings have come a long way since their introduction when musketry was still a relatively new concept of warfare. Even more so that, well, slings have become so advanced due to the necessity of urban combat and, of course, other much more CQC-oriented fighting styles when it comes to now modern military doctrines. And today, in a long time of course, reviews, we're talking about, well, a particular sling from Amazon. A 2-point sling that's actually pretty affordable. So, ladies and gentlemen, why don't we get inside, or at least get to a much more shade area, so we can talk about this sling, shall we? Now, before we continue, I've got to go ahead and just say, this sling was actually sent to me by Feyachi. Feyachi, of course, as you know, they actually are sponsoring a lot of our reviews as of late, mostly gear review, but we hope that one day we'll be getting a gun from them someday. But the sling in question, which I have pulled up on my phone, is called the Feyachi L46 2-point rifle sling with large metal hook adjustment length gun sling. A little bit ridiculous if you ask me. It does come in 3 colors. It comes in basic black, which is what I have. It also comes in green, which I wish I had, because I'm kind of fighting out in the woods. Black is going to kind of stand out, unless, really shade area or, really thick of it, but either way. And, of course, khaki. And the price tag of this is about $11.98, which actually is the more affordable slings. Now, free shipping is eligible on the first order of this, which means after you order it the first time, you will get free shipping, but if you try to order it a second time, or at least you try to order, like more than one time, you're not going to get free shipping, which is kind of idiotic, in my opinion. But either way. So, what is the sling exactly? What does it feel like? What's the construction? Things like that. Well, let's actually go ahead and take a look at it, shall we? The sling itself is primarily made of nylon polymer, or nylon construction. It has 4 adjustment points for it on the actual sling itself. It does just loose, essentially. You can't remove these. Well, you can remove these if you undo this and you undo that, all that, and you can actually turn this into a single point if you want to, but, I wouldn't recommend it. Anyway, though, the hooks themselves actually are decently constructed. They aren't like cheap metal. They aren't like the pot metal. They are actually decently constructed. They are spring-loaded on the actual attachments themselves, which is nice. They have a very large point right here, so you can hook into it if you want, as such, like that. So you can create a pseudo single point, but you gotta do it right, or else it'll be annoying as hell. And they do have elastic on the ends of these, so that way you can stretch them a good bit in case you have a heavy gun, which is not that bad. They aren't too bad on the elastic. I have this adjusted to a comfortable point, or at least as much as I possibly can. Let's go ahead and get the 416 and attach this and see how it actually does, shall we? Now, attaching the sling itself to any gun is not that difficult, but you want to have the adjustment points on the outside. So what you do is more or less you take the hook itself and you just push on there, and if it will let me, there it goes. Just like that. Like I said, make sure the adjustment points are on the outside of the gun, or at least facing away from you, because if you have them on the inside, it's going to get annoying, but more or less. So, moving it this way again, and attach, and voila! The sling is attached, and that's not coming off anytime soon. So let's go ahead and throw the sling on and run some drills, shall we? Before we get into the actual drills themselves, I've actually gotten a lot of people asking me, how does one run a 2-point, or at least how does one run a sling? The traditional method, of course, originally when it came to a 2-point sling, was originally just over the shoulder, which is more or less like this, like you would see on a standard thing. Now this sling, of course, is not exactly designed properly, or at least not done properly for it to be slung over the shoulder, but that is kind of what it is. Now, with this particular sling and the way it's set up in terms of the mounting points, what one would do, and you will see this a lot when it comes to a lot of airsofters, or at least what people will tell you, is you would run it over your neck, or at least behind your neck, like this, more or less. So that way it's a little bit more free. Now this one is wide enough, and I have a small enough body to where I can just have it under my arm, under your left armpit, but you would also do this for if you were left-handed also. Now what does this do? Well, what this does is it allows you to, one, have a good stable shooting platform, so that way you can have the sling like this under your armpit, so that way you can do it like that, have a stable shooting platform as such, or you can just do it like that, so that way you can quickly throw it behind you, which I failed at that, more or less. That way you can transition to your sidearm. Now, again, this is more or less just meant for speed, mobility, things like that, but in a sense, you have a stable shooting platform because of the setup I have. Now, 3-point slings are a little different, and we will cover those in another video. But if you want to know more about slings and sort of the placements, what have you, go check out Forgotten Weapons video, or not Forgotten Weapons, In Range TV's videos on slings, because Carl goes into more detail and actually is a lot better at explaining it than I am. I'm just going to show you if the sling is any good or not. So, let's just go ahead and run some drills, shall we? In terms of comfortability, yeah, no, this sling ain't exactly comfortable. It really isn't. It's actually really uncomfortable. The nylon itself does not do well with human skin. It's rough nylon, not the comfortable nylon. A sling I have, actually, a Bulldog Sling is what it is. It's a 3 to 2-point sling, meaning it can transition between a 2-point to a 3-point sling if it needs to be. It's actually a lot more comfortable. It really is. This one is just rough nylon. But then again, that's what you get when you pay about $12 essentially for a sling instead of like $20 or $30. But then again, if you're on a budget and you have like neck protection or something to protect your neck from like the rough feeling of the sling, then by all means, you know, you can go for this sling if you want. But personally, I might try to modify it a little bit, try and work on it best as possible, try and make it just a little bit more comfortable, maybe remove some of these adjustment points on here, because I think 4 is a little ridiculous for my taste, but it's just one of those things. But in all honesty, it isn't a bad sling, it's just not comfortable for my taste. A lot of you might be saying that you can handle it just as good, or you might give me some tips on how to actually work this sling a little better, which you are welcome to in the comment section down below, because I know a lot of people are probably going to be asking questions about slings. So if you guys want to do that, go ahead and do that down below. But as a final verdict for this, I say it's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. It's... Shit. Okay, yeah, that's just uncomfortable as all hell. It's, like I said, it's okay. It's not great. But, either way. Thank you all for watching. As always, I've been AirsoftAL, the common man's airsofter who reviews gear so you can see if it's worth it for you. And if you'll excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, I've got 2 optics to review, as well as a third one that was actually sent in by a viewer and a friend of mine. So, yeah, we'll definitely look at that. As well as a tactical vest. Yes, a Molly vest. Finally going to review one of those. Anyway, thank you all for watching. As always, I've been AirsoftAL, the common man's airsofter who reviews, well, affordable equipment on eBay, on Amazon, so you can decide if it's worth it for you or not. And, yeah. If you guys want to help out the channel, consider supporting us on PayPal down below, and would you kindly consider liking, subscribing, disliking, hitting the notification bell, because YouTube judges videos on interaction. So, be it like or dislike, what have you, go ahead and do that. And to the rest of you, do know that YouTube is not pushing notifications out, so be sure to check back the channel every day, because I do upload every day, so, yeah, or if I can, every day. Either way, though. Thank you all for watching. As always, I've been AirsoftAL, the common man's airsofter, and I will see all you lovely people in the next video. Till next time. Later!